What is up, everyone, and welcome back to the channel. Welcome to another video, another first ride, because we are here at the Rasnov event once again up in the mountains, and we have the Triumph Bonneville T120 Black for 30 minutes for a test ride. This is Triumph's signature motorcycle, the Bonneville, the Bonnie. They're one of the OG retro style motorcycles out on the market. Now there are a lot of retro style motorcycles currently on the market, but kind of this is where it started. Some would argue that Harley Davidson is the quintessential retro style motorcycle, but actually the problem is Harley never went away. Their models never went away to come back as retro style. The Bonneville did go away, but then it came back somewhere in the 90s. Triumph relaunched it, and now we have the 2024 Bonnie. A lot of details on this motorcycle. First of all, the spoked wheels, they are absolutely gorgeous and beautiful. I don't like that they're tubes, but I'm gonna forgive it for that because it's a Bonnie. Second thing, classic style headlight. I know it doesn't make a lot of light, but boy does it ever look good. It has some LED daytime running lights here and a Triumph logo straight in the middle. Everything is this metal? No, it's plastic, but it's made to look like metal. Whoa, they should have made it metal, honestly. We have a cradle style frame, and we have the engine that looks completely classic. I mean, this looks like a carburetor, but it's fuel injection. This bike is completely fuel injected and modern. It has, I think it has also traction control, ABS and everything. But this looks like an old school carburetor. We got a 1200cc parallel twin engine making about 80 horsepower and 105 newton meters of torque. So it is pretty pokey. And then moving around, again we have LED rear light, but it looks like an old school classic rear light. We have twin pea shooter exhausts on the back, and we're gonna see how it sounds. We got our regular suspension on the back, nothing too fancy, but I mean, just look at it. It's a Bonnie, boys. It's a Bonnie. It's absolutely gorgeous. But yeah, let's take it out for a ride, because I really want to see. Because, you know, the problem I have with the Bonnie is that there are a lot of motorcycles, classic style motorcycles, like the Benelli Imperiale, like QJ has a classic style motorcycle. You have all your Royal Enfields. They are great bikes, great classic style motorcycles. And the Bonnie is the most expensive one out of all of them. This one is about 12,000 euros. Now you can get a Royal Enfield Meteor 350 for a third of that, a little bit over than just a third of that. So you can almost get 3 Meteors for the price of one Bonnie. So is it any better than the others? Because it has to be a lot better, because it costs way more. And that's what I want to find out now. Is the Bonnie any better? Now, first of all, the engine is smooth and it does have that classic sound. I'm gonna run with the visor open a little bit, and we're gonna see up in the mountains more when I can rev it, but compared to the other offerings in the classic style motorcycle that are regularly underpowered, this thing shifts. I mean, 105 newton meters of torque, that's a lot of power, but the sound is there, the old school classic sound. Now it's not completely old school in terms of sound. There is a hint of modernism to it. There is a hint of I don't know, how should I say it, catered. It's a catered feeling. It feels like the engine doesn't usually sound like this, but it was made to sound like this. It is a beautiful sound, but somehow it doesn't feel like completely natural, not the regular motorcycle sound, or not how the bike should have sounded. But I still like it. I still like it, and in terms of riding it, boy, does it ever feel well put together. I mean, this thing really does feel premium. I know it costs a lot, but at least it feels premium. The controls look nice, the Triumph logo here, the clocks. I'm so happy they didn't go like with the big tablet TFT. A bike like this needs clocks. You have your speedometer, you have your rev counter, you do have two LCD displays down there that show your fuel level, your range, your fuel consumption. I don't mind those, but I want to see my speed and RPM on some classic style analog clocks. Now let's see if we can get past this truck, and that way we can test out the acceleration of the Bonnie, because again, this thing has some power. Okay, let's prep it. 3000 RPM in third gear. Let's go. Whoa, 120, hard on the brakes. Oh, the Bonnie can shift. Now the problem is, coming up to that corner, I didn't feel a lot of confidence to lean in a corner. Granted, it's my first time on the bike, so I gotta get used to it a little bit. But it didn't feel like it wanted to tip over. Let's see. Yeah, it's kind of like the Imperiale. The cradle frame is heavy, and it kind of doesn't want to tip in. You have to work it a little bit more, like a classic old school bike, down a cog. But boy, is it ever torquey. I mean, I'm running at 2,000, 3,000 RPM. The red line is at 7 grand. And it feels so wonderful at this RPM. You get the sound, you get all of the, just a little bit of vibration, nothing uncomfortable. But just so you know, the engine is there. And the downshifts are, such a smooth gearbox. The brakes are nice and positive. I mean, properly nice and positive. We do have twin discs up front, and you can feel it. You can feel when you stomp on the front brake, you can feel it has twin discs. So it goes and stops like a motorcycle, like a modern day motorcycle. The only caveat is, yeah, the old school frame is, yeah, it pivots into corners, but you kind of have to wrestle it into a corner. You can feel the weight, you can feel the heft. It's not light on its feet. It makes you work a little bit for it, but every time you get it right, it feels so wonderful. It's a charming machine, and that's the character such bikes need to have. It's charm. Granted, it is for a lot of people prohibitively expensive, but it's an awesome motorcycle, and I mean real awesome. And the riding position is nice and comfortable. I am just a little bit leaned forward, but in a comfortable way. My feet are where they should be. The controls are all nice and easy to find. Again, the gearbox is nice and slick. It's bolt action rifle kind of slick. I mean, it just feels so great going through the gears. I have another bigger, let's let this guy past. There's another guy on a test on an F900 GS, so he's got a little bit more poke, a little bit more grunt, a little bit more modern suspension and frame, so he can crisscross this traffic a little bit better. I'm kind of, yeah, the Bonnie is heavy. It loves going in a straight line. It goes beautifully in a straight line, but yeah, otherwise, corners, you have to take corners the old school way, like relaxed, don't hurry about it. Lean the bike into a corner and gently throttle out. We're gonna see now as we get into some tight hairpins. Drop it down to first gear, lean it in. It will go, but it just doesn't want to be hurried. And now we can get the power down. As you can see, when you put your foot in it or your hand in it, the Bonnie goes. But it feels a little bit weird when it goes, because it kind of wobbles all over the place. You can tell it's an old school frame that has a ton of power. Good thing the brakes are up to snuff to bring this thing to a halt, but when you give it the beans, you can feel the frame wandering a little bit. It doesn't give you that confidence. Kind of the front wheel gets very light, and you have no idea if you're still in control or not. Let's see. You kind of have to go easy into it, but then again, this engine is very, very pokey. And it's kind of hard to get easy into it, because every small twist of the throttle gives you a shit ton of torque, and it just rockets you down the street. So yeah, the Bonnie has power. The Bonnie has power, no joke. I don't know how long I was signaling left, but turned it off now. Let's open this up a little bit. Come on. Traffic. Unfortunately, this year at Rasnov there's a lot of traffic, so it's hard to do any kind of proper road testing, but I can still get a first impression of a motorcycle. Maybe I can give you guys some sound. Let's see. There we go, nice and slow. It's kind of the second time the engine died on me, but I don't know what's the deal with it. I think below 1000 RPM it's really touchy. You really have to. It doesn't like to be under revved. It died on me once exiting the event, but come on, Bonnie! Making mincemeat of the traffic. Come on, let's go. We still have a bit of room. Again, the frame doesn't feel like it wants to be ridden this hard, but the brakes are up to snuff. So that kind of gives you a bit of confidence. What a beautiful machine. And I mean, in this setting, it's so wonderful to ride something like this. I would have loved for it to be a little bit less crowded so I can properly enjoy the Bonnie and explore a little bit the limits, but I can't do it. But yeah, we can try it a little bit. But the most burning question, is it worth the 12,000 euro asking price? It's hard to say. You know, with every other cheaper classic style motorcycle, you can find faults with them. The only fault I am finding with the Bonnie is the fact that the frame is an old school frame, and it's really not that well adapted to the amount of power the Bonnie has. But if you want the feeling of that classic motorcycle, you gotta have this frame. There's nothing else you can do. It's a limitation of the design and not of the engineering. I mean, it's kind of the only flaw, but it's a flaw you have to accept when you want a motorcycle like this. You can't make a regular style, a modern frame look, a motorcycle with a modern frame look like this one. You just can't. It doesn't have that look. It doesn't have that shape. You gotta have the frame going under the engine. That's what gives it, that's what ties in the whole design together. And yeah, that's the caveat you have to accept if you want a bike that looks like this. But then anything else can be thoroughly modern, and this thing even has cruise control. So the Bonnie can be a very, very good long distance cruiser. I know you can put a windscreen on it, and you can put some luggage on it, and you can have a lot of fun with it. And with cruise control, man, this would be an awesome touring motorcycle. I'm pretty sure with the speeds that it's capable of here in 6th gear, you can do 120 kilometers an hour, no problem. So it would be a very good highway cruiser. The sitting position is quite comfortable, and with this flat seat, you can find all kinds of riding positions. Come on. And yeah, like I've said, the torque of the engine is something else. It really is something else. Now I'm gonna pull off here, and we're gonna start going downhill. Once again. Did we leave it in 1st gear? Yep, left it in 1st gear. Now the side stand is right here next to the exhaust, so I'm pretty sure some people are gonna melt some shoes on it, but Come on, it's a Bonnie. Just look at it in this setting. How beautiful it is with a mountainous backdrop and everything. Again, we see Brembo style Brembo brakes on the front, dual discs, a rear disc brake. I mean, it's thoroughly modern in this department, but it's this frame. I mean, the way it goes, the cradle frame, it doesn't give the motorcycle that special handling that modern day motorcycles have. Come on, let's take it downhill now. First gear, let's go. Only 2 cars to pass. Let's go. Back on the Bonnie. And downhill is where we're gonna see the brakes. And usually what I've noticed with motorcycles like this, old school motorcycles, is, yeah, sure, the frame isn't all that agile, or the motorcycle isn't all that agile, but you can get used to it, and you can manhandle it into corners. And boy, is this thing ever torquey. The other cheaper bikes do not give you this amount of power, so you can have an old school motorcycle that goes the speed of an old school motorcycle, and that's kind of it. With the Bonnie, the engine really loves it when you go slowly. We're keeping it between 2,000 and 3,000 RPM. It really loves it there. But it can also dance. It can also play the sport bike game. Engine and brakes can play the sport bike game. Problem is, the frame can't, but you can manhandle it. But that's the extra that the Bonneville brings to the table. It brings power to the table, but in a very, very interesting way. It's an engine that loves being ridden slow, but that also likes when you manhandle it and when you give it the beans. It's an interesting combination. I mean, it sounds great at low RPM, and it also sounds great at high RPM. That's an interesting mix. Usually engines either sound good at low RPM or high RPM, but not both. And it feels good at both RPMs. That's the thing, you have no problem in pushing it to 5,000-6,000 RPM because it feels good, it feels like it likes it. But then again, you can also ride it at 2,000 RPM and it also feels like it likes that. It's a very elastic engine. The power band must be extremely flat on this one to feel this good at any RPM. And man, that gearbox is slick. Man, that gearbox is slick. It's kind of like a BMW motorcycle, a BMW GS gearbox in terms of mechanical feel, but that's also smooth. So it has the mechanical feel of a GS gearbox, but the smoothness, so it doesn't feel like a tractor gearbox. Again, bolt action rifle. That's the only thing I can compare it. And I'm pretty sure that's intentionally engineered in. Breaking loose the back end. Oh, all right. Come on, Bonnie. All right, now we got a clear bit of road. Oh, coming up to a corner, hard on the brakes, down to first gear. Engine brake is really on par. Again, with a high torque motor, you're gonna get some proper engine brake. Yep, the Bonnie can shift. Oh, pops and bangs on the exhaust. Beautiful. I want to give you guys some proper sound here. All right. Hope that comes out on camera. You see what I mean when I say the Bonnie likes it at high RPM and low RPM? And then when you're done mucking around, put it into 4th gear, 5th gear, 2000 RPM. And if you think it's slow at this RPM, it's not. That's what the Bonnie offers you. A very elastic engine and the ability to have slow fun or high speed fun, because even at 3000 RPM the thing can pick up and go. Is it worth triple more than other options? Well, honestly, if you can afford the Bonneville, you're not gonna settle for anything else. So it really comes down to if you can afford it. If you have to save up for years and years, or if you have to buy it by getting a loan, I would say it's not worth it. Get some of the cheaper options. You're gonna get 75% of the emotions out of those. But if you can afford the Bonneville, money down, no issue, then yeah, it's a bike that really deserves it. It's one of those interesting things where I wouldn't say save up for it. There are cheaper options that would give you most of these feelings. But if you already have the money and you're thinking of springing for one and maybe saving up some money and buying the cheaper versions, I would say no. I would say if you already have the money for a Bonneville, get the Bonneville. If it's not too much of a financial problem for you, get the Bonneville. I can see why somebody would choose the Bonneville over any other motorcycle in this class, even though it's one of the most expensive motorcycles in this class. It's a jewel. It's a beauty to ride. It's so much fun to ride, but can also be quick and engaging, but also slow and engaging. It's a complete package. It's really a complete package. And again, with traction control and ABS, even though the frame isn't quite up to snuff for this kind of power, you don't feel unsafe. I mean, you feel like the bike demands respect. It kind of teaches you to respect it. But if you respect it, it's like one of those Saint Bernards. You feel like it's gonna take care of you. Offer it the respect that it deserves, and it will take care of you. That's the beauty of the Bonneville. This is what I'm getting from this motorcycle as a first ride. It's an emotional experience, and it's a very, very pleasant emotional experience at that. Anyway, guys, hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll catch you in the next one. Take care out there, everyone, and ride safe. Bye.